Hi again, everybody. I know I said I was going to do both classes in one video, but I noticed as I was recording the last one, it was getting a little long, so I thought I'd break it up into two separate videos. So um, we're going to focus on ELA here in this video. Again, these videos are just so you completely understand everything you need to do, and also just in case you, for whatever reason, can't make it to a Zoom session, then you have this information. This can sort of take place of our Zoom meeting. So in ELA, if you go into our class, just like pre-alg, at the very top is a purple folder that has today's date and says virtual learning day. When you go into it, same information is there as was there yesterday. Again, I'm going to be running a Zoom session at 11:40 for pre-alg and then one at 12:23 for ELA. You can ask me questions about either class for both. If you just want to get on at 11:40, ask me about pre-alg and ELA, perfect. If you want to get on at 12:23, ask me about pre-alg and ELA. That's fine too. So links right there, should be working and everything. I know we had some issues last virtual learning day, but I think those have been solved. Please just make sure you click on this link up here. For ELA today, we're going to be doing a couple different things. When we take a look at the lesson interview, of course, it's ELA class, so I want you to do some reading. I know we've been reading Bloom in class, but we're obviously not together right now, so that's sort of not feasible. So I'm going to ask that you spend about 10-15 minutes today reading something, get on Sora, read some nonfiction articles in your iPad, some news, read a book that you have at home, something. Just get your eyes reading on something. Just that practice of reading is such a good thing for your brain. And then we'll take a look at, continuing with our argumentative essay. I was hoping to do most of this in class, but, we had these virtual days and we just have to make the best of the situation we have right now. So looking at, thinking about our argumentative essays, I really wanted to help us fine tune the idea of a claim or thesis. I noticed as I was looking at some people's essays when they were working on them, we had great starts. We really did. Some people more than others in terms of the amount of writing, but everybody knows what sort of topic they want to argue, what they want to address. So now we need to sort of fine tune that. We need to really take your ideas and what we call hone them or sharpen them and really understand exactly what claims you're making. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. When we look in the folder, there's two links. There's a link to the argumentative essay assignment. That's going to be where our landing spot for the final big thing. But there's also this link here about writing your claim or thesis. When you click on that, it should take you right to the Schoology assignment. And of course, yours will be listed over here. But when we open that document, this is what it looks like. Okay, the first part is pretty simple. All you do is write the topic that you've chosen for your argumentative essay. So let's say I chose to write an argumentative essay about making or raising restrictions or making restrictions tougher on people who drive under the influence. Okay, so I would just put in terms of the basic topic, we're going to talk about penalties for driving under the influence. Okay, that's just a general topic. That doesn't mean I'm going to write my essay about that broad topic, but that does cover what I'm going to argue. But now in the second part, this is where we're going to really fine tune our idea. So it says here, now that you've chosen a topic, write down your claim or thesis. Remember, a claim or thesis is the main argument you are trying to convince the reader of in your essay, and this is the basis of your entire essay. So now we're not just talking about a broad topic like penalties for driving under the influence. Now we're getting really specific. And most of these, if you noticed in our selecting an argument document we did last marking period, at the end there, a lot of the topics were phrased like a question. It said, should this happen? So an example of this one might say should the penalties for driving under the influence be more severe? Okay, let's say I'm arguing yes, it is. My answer to that question is what my claim or thesis is going to be. So in my example, if I'm saying, penalties for driving under the influence should be more severe, I would put that, I would phrase it that way. penalties for driving under the influence, that's also known as a DUI, should be more severe, including, let's say, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, including life in prison and or heavy fines. Mine's a little long, a little complicated, but you get the idea. That I'm going from this big general broad topic of talking about penalties for driving under the influence, and now I'm saying penalties, or maybe I can even say like punishments for driving under the influence should be more severe, including life in prison and or heavy fines. Okay, so that's the big difference. That's the most important part of this document. The next half of it is equally as important, but you can't do the next part unless you have a claim or thesis. Okay, so if you have specific questions about a claim or thesis, you really need to reach out and ask me individually. I was hoping to be able to conference with each of you one-on-one in class, but what we're going to do instead is, we're going to try and do it over Zoom. If you're not available over Zoom, we can try and do it over email. But I'm going to try and help you sort of craft and figure out your claim before we start, doing a lot of this research. Because if you don't have a specific claim or thesis, when you do the research to support that claim or thesis, it's going to be hard without one. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, a while ago, we talked about evaluating websites, and we talked about how to tell if a website is authentic, if it's got too much bias, how current it is, and when it was like data, we talked about that ABCD test. We're going to be using that now in real life to research our topics. Okay, so let me show you an example. I'm going to just literally copy and paste my thesis that I just wrote into like a search engine, like even just straight up Google. Okay, what that will give me hopefully is a list of websites that I can use. All right. Here's one, for example, about, so I see DUI legislation from the PA DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles. They're the government body that, when you get a driver's license, that's where it comes from. So again, looking at like the authority of this website, it's probably pretty good because these are the people that, kind of decide on driving laws and things like that. So we're looking here and it says there are, let's see here, this Act 24, which lowered the legal alcohol limit, was signed into law in 2003. Okay. This new DUI law creates a tiered approach. So here are the tiers, and this is for like repeat offenders. Okay. So no prior DUI offenses. It's an ungraded misdemeanor, up to 6 months probation, $300 fine. You have to go to alcohol highway safety school and treatment when ordered. It says here, the new law creates a higher set of penalties for those who have higher blood alcohol content. Okay, so if we're talking specifically about alcohol, this is saying the more impaired someone is, the more severe the penalties, which kind of makes sense. But we're looking at like what happens if they like hurt another person. Well, now we're getting into kind of the point of my essay, but this is one thing that I can use. This is a source that doesn't necessarily back my claim up, but it's a great source to use because this is the starting point. This is where I can say, if I'm writing this essay about, increasing the penalties for driving under the influence, I could use this website to say, look, here's where we're at. This is the current law. And then I can go on to say, here's how I think it should be changed. So let's take a look at another source here. This one is saying, do strict DUI laws really work? And it's from this website, driversed.com. So yeah, here, this is something that's sort of backing up what I'm saying here. We're talking about different states that have different leniencies and laws related to DUIs. Basically, there are some states where it's not as severe of a punishment, depending on the state that you're in. So here it says South Dakota has very lenient laws and one of the highest fatality rates, meaning they have like the least strict laws regarding driving under the influence, but they also have one of the highest rates of people that die in crashes that were caused by someone who was under the influence. So that really supports what I'm saying. Saying here, high fatality rates were associated with lenient laws in several other states. So again, it's not just South Dakota. There's other states that have looser, less strict laws, but also they have higher fatality rates of people driving under the influence. So again, this would be a good website to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the URL here. I'm going to go back into my document, put a link. Make sure you hit space because it creates a hyperlink then that you can just click on. The name of the website is driversed.com, right? Yeah. And the last question is just saying, is this source trustworthy or not using the ABCD test? So think about what we did with like that Tree Octopus website and a few of those other examples we looked at. Let's test it out. Is this a good website? And I'm going to say, I think it's good because it's pretty current, looks like. Updated on 10/6/2020. Okay, so it's a little over a year old. That's not too bad. And they have a lot of statistics and numbers that they're citing their sources here. So yeah, this is a good website. So they have statistics, stats, and numbers. They cite their sources. And it's current October 2020. That right there is a great example. You can find at least one website that sort of backs up your claim or thesis. That's a good starting point. We'll continue this next week. On Monday, we'll take a look at finding some other sources for your claim, your thesis. They'll really help sort of state your case, make your point, so to speak. But one for today is good just because I want you to at least have a starting space. The most important part though, like I said, is this part 2 here, really specifically crafting your claim or thesis, saying not just what the general topic is, but how you feel about it, what your opinion is, because really that's what you're arguing in an argumentative essay is you're arguing your opinion. So we really need to make sure that we're focused in our research, because without that focusing statement of a claim or thesis, it's going to be really hard to research that. So that's about it. That's the goal for today. Like I said, I can talk about this a little bit more in detail in the Zoom with like your individual case-by-case essays. You can always email me questions, or we can chat on Monday in person. So any of those options work for me. I just want you to at least get a good start on this so we have somewhere to start on Monday when we're talking about it. If you have any other questions, like I said, feel free to reach out. But other than that, get to work and I will be available if you need help. Okay, thanks guys.